The Whispering City. The moment Elias stepped off the train, he knew something was different about this place. The air was thick with a strange stillness, as if the city itself was holding its breath. His mother, weary from the long journey, tightened her grip on his hand as they navigated through the bustling station. But even as people rushed past them, their voices seemed muted, their faces blurred by a hazy fog that curled around the edges of his vision. This was his new home, a city whose name he barely knew, whose streets held secrets he was yet to uncover. Elias was not a stranger to loneliness. The move had been sudden, and he had left behind everything he knew: the friends he played soccer with after school, the neighbors who greeted him each morning, the old oak tree under which he would read his books for hours. But here, in this unfamiliar place, there was no familiar laughter, no comforting presence to ease his nerves. The apartment they moved into was small and smelled of dust and time, as if it had been waiting for them in silence. His mother tried to put on a brave face, filling the space with hopeful words, but Elias could see the worry that clouded her eyes. School was worse than he had imagined. The language barrier wrapped around him like a heavy chain, making every interaction feel impossible. The other children laughed easily, spoke quickly, and moved effortlessly through their routines, while he struggled to grasp even the simplest of words. The teachers were kind but distant, their patience stretched thin by the weight of their responsibilities. He spent his days in the back of the classroom, staring out the window, feeling as though he were trapped inside a glass cage, watching life move on without him. But it was in those quiet, isolating moments that he first noticed it, the voice. It began as a whisper, barely audible, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. At first, he thought it was just his mind playing tricks on him, the product of exhaustion and stress. But then it grew clearer, more distinct, weaving itself into his thoughts, speaking in a language he somehow understood. It called his name, beckoned him to listen, to follow. At night, when the city fell into an uneasy slumber, the whisper turned into a song, a melody that carried the weight of something ancient and forgotten. Driven by a mixture of fear and curiosity, Elias followed the voice. It led him through winding streets and dimly lit alleys, past buildings that seemed to lean in, watching him with silent eyes. And then he found it, a hidden courtyard, bathed in the glow of flickering lanterns, where a girl stood waiting. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen, her hair flowing like liquid silver, her eyes reflecting the night sky. She smiled at him, as if she had been expecting him all along. "You heard it too," she said, and in that moment, Elias knew his life would never be the same. Her name was Leora, and she belonged to the city in a way Elias never could. She spoke of old legends, of whispers that carried the memories of those who came before, of a secret that had been buried beneath the streets for centuries. The city, she said, was alive, and it had chosen him.
But why?
What did it want from him? As the days passed, Elias and Leora delved deeper into the mystery, following the whispers that led them through forgotten tunnels and abandoned buildings, uncovering fragments of a story that had been lost to time. But not all secrets were meant to be unearthed. The more they uncovered, the more the city seemed to resist, its shadows growing darker, its silence heavier. And then the nightmares began. Visions of a time long past, of a love that was never meant to be, of a tragedy that had sealed the fate of those who dared to listen. Elias saw glimpses of another life, another boy who had walked these streets centuries ago, who had loved and lost, whose whispers still echoed through the walls of the city. Was he reliving someone else's past? Or was the past reliving itself through him? The night the whispers turned to screams, Elias knew they had gone too far. The city, once a silent observer, now stirred with an anger that sent shivers down his spine. The air grew colder, the buildings trembled, and the streets shifted beneath his feet. Something was waking up, something that had been buried for too long. Leora grabbed his hand, her eyes filled with both terror and determination. "We have to finish this," she whispered, and together they ran. The final piece of the puzzle led them to the heart of the city, to a place where time itself seemed to bend and fracture. And there, they saw it. The truth that had been hidden for centuries. A love forbidden, a betrayal that had shattered lives, a curse that had bound the city in an endless loop of whispers and sorrow. Elias and Leora stood at the edge of the past, their fates intertwined with those who had come before. But they had a choice: to repeat the cycle or to break it. Elias took a deep breath, the weight of the city pressing down on him. He reached for Leora, their fingers intertwining, and together, they whispered a single word, a word of hope, of forgiveness, of release. And just like that, the whispers stopped. The city exhaled, the fog lifted, and for the first time, Elias felt truly seen. Days passed and life moved on. The city remained the same, yet different. The whispers were gone, but their echoes remained, a reminder of the past that had shaped the present. Elias no longer felt like an outsider. He had found his place, his voice, his story. And as he walked through the now familiar streets, he realized that the city had not just chosen him. He had chosen it too. And in that choice, he had found something he never thought possible: a home.
Whispering echoes.